The day before the joint exam, someone tampered with the water I was drinking. My best friend surpassed me and secured the only guaranteed admission spot. My childhood sweetheart comforted me. It's okay, you still have another chance with the college entrance exam. But on the day of the college entrance exam, I was kidnapped, and my childhood friend missed the exam to save me. To repay his kindness, I married my childhood friend. Years later, my best friend, who graduated from a prestigious university, came to my wedding looking radiant and successful, but I accidentally overheard a conversation between my childhood friend and her. Ran, thanks to you, she missed both exams, otherwise, I definitely wouldn't have been able to marry her. Suran gave a mocking smile. Who told her she's the daughter from my dad's ex-wife? If I don't trample her into the mud, how can my mom outshine that old woman? In a fit of rage, I drove my car and crashed into them, leaving them all disabled. I was sentenced to death. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn back to my senior year of high school. Nan, let me get you some water. You can still review 2 more major questions during this break. Suran stood in front of me and spoke timidly. Before I could say anything, she took the empty cup from my desk. Zhu Mahajing walked over from the last row and sat down beside me. Nan, Ran is so good to you. Even though she's always second in class, she's still willing to give up her break time to let you practice exam questions. The way she said it made it sound like I had taken some huge advantage of Suran. The surrounding classmates looked over with varied expressions. Someone whispered softly, "Is Shannan bullying the school bell? Aren't they childhood friends? Why do I feel like the school bell seems so humble in front of her?" It's precisely because we grew up together that it's easy to be manipulated. He Jing listened to these words, a flicker of laughter in his eyes, but he pretended to be angry and loudly scolded them. "All of you, shut up. Nan isn't that kind of person." After they fell silent, He Jing looked at me with deep affection in his eyes. Nan, no matter how many people misunderstand you, I will always stand by your side." Crazy, I ignored He Jing, not even lifting an eyelid. It was on this day in my previous life, I drank the water Suran gave me, got dehydrated and passed out, completely missing the joint entrance exam. Without me as a competitor, Suran successfully went from being the perpetual runner-up to taking first place. The homeroom teacher said to me with regret, "The teacher knows your ability, but the school has its own regulations, and these cannot be changed. You missed the exam. According to the rules, the guaranteed admission spot goes to Suran." Including, the homeroom teacher knows my background and how much I care about the reward that comes with being the top scorer in this joint exam. Her voice trembled as she spoke, unable to bear saying it. Including the privilege of 4 years of free university tuition, it must also be given to Suran. I am an orphan, abandoned since childhood. It was Grandma He Jing who took me in. The He family was not wealthy. Grandma He took me in to make me He Jing's child bride. This way, He Jing won't have to spend money to get married in the future. I do everything at the He family's house, washing clothes, cooking, feeding the chickens, and raising pigs, yet I don't have enough to eat or warm clothes to wear. Fortunately, the 9-year compulsory education has been implemented. The village party secretary brought the police to the He family's house, and only then was I able to attend school. Tuition for middle school and high school was free. I only needed to work part-time during my free time to earn a little living expenses, but university tuition is expensive. I studied hard for these 3 years just for the reward of having all 4 years of university tuition waived through this joint examination. The He family won't pay for my college education, and they won't allow me to attend university either. They're afraid that if I go to college and see the world, I won't be willing to marry He Jing. So they're trying every possible way to keep me in this backward, impoverished mountain area. In my previous life, after I missed the college entrance exam, I returned to school to get my cup and have it tested at the hospital, but I just couldn't find the cup. I went to check the classroom surveillance footage with my homeroom teacher, but I was told that the surveillance system had been damaged a week earlier. The last image captured by the surveillance showed He Jing bouncing a basketball in the classroom, and the ball ricocheted and smashed the camera. I did have my suspicions about He Jing because of these coincidences. It wasn't until he gave up the college entrance exam to look for me that my doubts were dispelled, but who would have thought that all of this was just his own fabrication, designed to make me feel indebted to him for life. He knew he couldn't get into university, and he couldn't focus on studying anyway. He was afraid that I would get into a good university, rise above my social class, and leave him behind, so he conspired with Suran to ruin my future. Suran placed the cup of water she had prepared on my desk. She gave me a timid smile, her eyes filled with cautious flattery. Nan, I mixed half hot water and half cold water for you. It's just the right temperature now. You can drink it." My gaze fell on the question, and I let out an too lazy to look at her. She bit her lip, and her eyes instantly reddened. Nan, did I do something wrong? You're so cold. Suran was very popular in the class, and with her outstanding appearance, many people stood up for her. Monitor, what are you acting so arrogant for? The school belle doesn't owe you anything. She even fetched water for you, and you're still giving her the cold shoulder. Can't you even say thank you? I didn't even look up. The person criticizing me was left speechless. And Suran was also stunned. Thank you. The class bell rang. Suran could only unwillingly return to her seat. I glanced at my cup, then looked at the identical one on Suran's desk. Suran and Hijing were from the same village, but her family was slightly wealthier than the He family. Many of my belongings were passed down to me after Suran had used them. For this, I am always grateful. Even though she loves to say it playfully in front of many people, the clothes on Nan are for me. They were too loose on me, but they fit her just right. There are too many such remarks. In elementary school, my classmates used to laugh at me, saying I was like a beggar, treasuring the things Suran didn't want. Later, in middle school and high school, she always liked to buy 2 of everything and then give 1 to me. If I didn't want it, she would give it to Grandma He. I thought I had finally shaken off the label of beggar. But I ended up being called a copycat. The money I earn from odd jobs, I will return to Suran. I don't want to owe her anything. I've always believed that no one is perfect, everyone has flaws. There's no such thing as a flawless person. In all matters, judge by actions, not intentions, for no one is perfect in their actions, no matter what her original intention was. At least it gave me clothes to wear and a cup to use. But I didn't know the truth about my origins until just before I died. I was actually her half-sister, sharing the same father. Her malice was not something I had imagined after all. From the small mirror, I saw Suran's resentful gaze fixed on my cup. I deliberately picked up the cup lid and twisted it open. Her pupils widened slightly, and the corners of her mouth twitched with excitement. The next moment, I tightened the lid again. Her pupils contracted. She clenched her teeth, and her fingers involuntarily dug into her palms. For the entire class, I repeatedly tormented her nerves like this. Her originally clear eyes were already filled with red veins by the time class was about to end. Her body couldn't stop trembling either. I found it somewhat amusing. With such poor psychological resilience, she still dared to do bad things. When the class dismissal bell rang, Suran abruptly stood up. I instantly picked up the cup, my throat moving as I pretended to take a few sips of water. Only then did she sit back down, letting out a sigh of relief. I put the lid back on the cup and lay my head on the desk, pretending to rest. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her pulling Yijing outside. While they were away, I poured the water from the cup into an empty mineral water bottle and hid it in my backpack. The empty cup was placed back on the table by me. When Suran returned, she deliberately passed by me and picked up my cup. The lighter weight made her unable to contain her joy. Nan, let me get you some more water. After saying that, she took my cup and ran out with a smile. In the next class, I pretended to hold my stomach in pain and shed tears. In the mirror, Suran couldn't help but curl the corners of her lips, exchanging a glance with Hijing in the last row. Seeing the time was right, I couldn't help but clutch my stomach and stand up, asking my English teacher for leave. Teacher, my stomach suddenly hurts really bad. The English teacher was my favorite teacher and also my homeroom teacher. In my previous life, he went around pulling strings everywhere for my sake, and in the end, when I missed the college entrance exam, he even went to the He family to find Grandma He, saying he was willing to pay for me to repeat the year. But Grandma He hit him on the head with a broom and drove him out. Not only that, Grandma He also went to the school and made a scene, telling everyone that the homeroom teacher had ulterior motives toward me. This led to the homeroom teacher being suspended and also being reported by parents for verbal abuse. Yet even so, when Yijing took me south to work, the homeroom teacher still sent me a message to encourage me. Shannan, you missed the college entrance exam, but you haven't missed your entire life. You can still return to campus through self-study and adult education exams in the future, or through other means. Life is long, never give up on yourself. Now, the homeroom teacher saw my disheveled state, drenched in sweat and with tears streaming down my face, immediately contacted the teacher from the infirmary to take me over. I've experienced the pain of dehydration in my previous life, so in this one, acting it out came effortlessly. Suran and Hijing came to see me, and only when they saw me running back and forth to the restroom with a pale face did they finally feel reassured enough to go back to class. During the last evening self-study session, I asked my homeroom teacher for leave to be hospitalized at an outside hospital. The homeroom teacher lamented in the classroom, how could this happen? Shannan is actually being hospitalized at such a critical time. Tomorrow is the joint exam. No, I need to go check on her. After the homeroom teacher left, Su-ran and Hee-jing were overjoyed. On the way back, Su-ran even started humming a tune. I didn't attend the morning self-study session the next day. Su-ran saw that there was no one at my seat and felt a sense of relief. Her exam location and mine were not at the same school. Because I was sick, the homeroom teacher was worried about me and personally escorted me to the exam hall. I didn't return to school until after the exam was over. Su-ran saw me and couldn't wait to come over, saying sadly, "Nan, it's such a pity that you missed the exam. It's okay, there's still the college entrance exam." I smiled faintly. She sighed and said deliberately with pride, "This joint exam involves guaranteed admission, and there's also a full tuition waiver." The class bell rang, and she returned to her seat, only to find a note tucked under her cup. I had woken up early that morning and, imitating Hee-jing's handwriting, wrote for Ran, "Take your time." I poured all the water that I had replaced with mineral water that day into Su-ran's cup. She held the cup and took a sip, a sweet smile spreading across her lips. As Hee-jing passed by Su-ran while holding a basketball, Su-ran blushed and blinked at him. Hee-jing, feeling puzzled, scratched the back of his head and smiled back. Su-ran became even more certain that the note was from Hee-jing. In less than one class period, Su-ran had finished drinking the entire glass of water. When class ended, she had just stood up to go find Hee-jing when she suddenly clutched her lower abdomen, knelt on the ground, and started convulsing. Clutching her stomach, she got up from the floor and ran toward the restroom. She didn't return for 2 whole class periods. The homeroom teacher sent someone to look for her. In the end, she was found in the corridor outside the restroom. She was dehydrated and unconscious. Just like I was in my previous life. Hee-jing frowned as he watched Su-ran being carried out. He walked up to me and asked, "Nan, Su-ran's condition is so similar to how you were back then, and it's even much more severe than yours." His voice was quite loud, and many people in the class heard it. "Yeah, class president, did you infect the campus bell? Don't infect us. The college entrance exam is coming up soon. We can't afford to get sick." "Nan, if you're sick, you should just take a leave of absence and go home. Don't hold everyone back. Everyone knows you're an orphan and how poor you are. Who knows if you have some infectious disease that you can't afford to treat. The school bell probably got infected because she was too close to you." Accusations and scolding voices rose one after another. I looked at Hee-jing, but he showed no trace of concern for me. His mood grew better and better as the voices insulting and humiliating me grew louder. Hee-jing always says he loves me, that I am the most important person in his life. Yet his love always puts me in awkward situations. When the students saw the homeroom teacher walk in at that moment, they immediately said, "Teacher, Su-ran's condition is exactly the same as Shin-nan's back then. It must have been Shin-nan who infected her. We're all about to take the college entrance exam. What if she infects us? Let her take a leave of absence, or we'll collectively call the Education Bureau to protest." Hee-jing really enjoys putting me in a situation where everyone despises me. Every time this happens, he would appear like a hero descending from the heavens, standing in front of me, defending me. Yet all these storms were clearly brought by him. I watched his performance with cold eyes. Sure enough, the next second, he stood in front of me, his back facing me. "What nonsense are you talking? Nan is not an orphan. She has been adopted by my family. I won't allow you to talk nonsense. Nan doesn't have any illness. Last time, she just had an upset stomach from eating something bad, and Su-ran also seems to have food poisoning from eating something bad." Hee-jing turned back and looked at me tenderly. Nan, as long as I'm here, no one will bully you." The classmates still wanted to speak, but the homeroom teacher forcefully slapped the table with the book in hand. "Do you have any evidence? Do you have evidence that Shin-nan infected Su-ran? You can't just make baseless accusations. Have all those years of education gone to waste?" The classroom instantly fell silent. Someone couldn't help but whisper, "But their symptoms are clearly the same." The homeroom teacher raised her voice. "I personally accompanied Su-ran to the hospital for her 4 drip and all the tests on the night she fell ill. Do you think I don't know whether she was sick or not? I took out the test report from that day. Everyone, please take a good look." After reading it, those who were barking like dogs earlier remembered to apologize to me. After the students passed it around and read it, they all reluctantly fell silent. The document finally ended up in Hee-jing's hands. It was clearly stated on it that I don't have any illness at all. The homeroom teacher said angrily, "Shin-nan is just suffering from pre-exam syndrome, which caused stomach pain and the need to use the restroom. How can that be the same as Jo-ran?" The students all stopped talking. After Hee-jing finished reading the document, the smile in his eyes instantly faded. He suddenly looked up, staring at me in disbelief. I met his gaze coldly. My stare sent a chill down his spine. Nan, you... I looked at him with disgust. "Hee-jing, get as far away from me as you can. You truly disgust me." After saying that, I returned to my seat and started working on practice problems. I let Hee-jing endure the scrutiny of our classmates and the homeroom teacher. The homeroom teacher said unhappily, Jing, Shannan is the hope of the entire school. If she gets into a good university, she can inspire so many younger students who come after her. Can you please stop holding her back? I'm begging you as your teacher. Is that okay? Her score is more than 3 times yours. How can you have the nerve to do this? Jing's face turned pale, and he staggered back to his seat. All day long, his gaze was fixed on me like a ghost. When classmates asked him to go to the hospital to visit Suran, he refused. Jing is different from me. I got into this high school through my own efforts, while his family paid to get him in. Before he transferred to our school, everyone knew I was an orphan, but no one ever made fun of me. They even raised funds together to help with my expenses and encouraged me to study hard. Ever since Jing arrived, any guy who gets close to me, he would go and tell others that I was picked up by his grandmother, that I am his child bride, I am going to marry him in the future. Once I've eaten the He family's rice, I am a member of the He family. In high school, everyone's life was quite monotonous, especially in key high schools, with daily extra classes and endless test papers to complete. Under intense high pressure, such gossip spread, almost sweeping through the entire grade. I became the laughingstock of everyone. Whenever people saw me, they would tease Jing. Jing, your child bride is here. The teasing laughter made me feel embarrassed. My fragile self-esteem was trampled underfoot and rubbed repeatedly, yet, Jing seemed to enjoy it. Coupled with Su Rant's instigation, people's impression of me has become very poor. They said I was jealous of Su Rant's beauty, so I bullied her. The nickname copycat became an inescapable nightmare that followed me throughout my youth, always by my side. Getting out of these mountains and leaving this county town unexpectedly became my only hope for survival throughout high school. When we had the afternoon off, Jing came to me, using his usual tactics. To be fair, Jing is quite good looking, he knows his strengths and is very good at pretending to be pitiful in front of me. Every time, I haven't even started to pity him yet. Another girl stood up for her out of a sense of injustice. Nan. Grandma made dinner and said she's waiting for you to come home to eat. I packed my books into my backpack. I'm not going back, Jing. I won't be going back anymore. A flicker of panic flashed in his eyes. What do you mean? Exactly what it says. I handed him a form stamped with the official seal of the relevant department. It clearly stated the termination of the adoption relationship. Jing, I have no connection with your He family anymore, and I have no connection with you either. If you continue to falsely claim that I am your child bride and that I will marry you in the future, I will sue your grandmother for child trafficking and unlawful confinement. Jing looked at the words on the watch, his lips trembling. Shannan, how can you be like this? My grandmother raised you all these years. How can you be so ungrateful? And now you're slandering her like this. More and more students gathered around to watch the commotion. Our school has a day and a half off every Friday. So many students from other classes also come to our classroom to wait for their friends. Now, both inside and outside the classroom, the place was packed with onlookers. Jing's voice was very loud, and they all heard it. The voices condemning me have risen once again. Jing may not have excelled in academic studies, but he is quite skilled in the art of subtle insinuation. He always positions others on the moral high ground to criticize them. Then he places himself in the most innocent position. I sneered. Your grandmother took me in just to save the money for your future bride price. I came to your home and started learning to cook on a stool at the age of 4. I didn't even have decent clothes to wear. In the dead of winter, my feet would turn blue and purple from the cold, while you got to warm yourself by the fire. When it was time for school, you could go, but I had to stay home cutting pigweed and feeding the chickens. The village party's secretary came several times, saying that according to compulsory education laws, I should be in school, but your grandmother wouldn't even register me for a household registration, afraid that I would run away. In the end, the village party secretary said your grandmother had no legal adoption relationship with me and threatened to send me to an orphanage. Only then, afraid I might run away. Did your grandmother finally register my household registration? It was only after the police came to our door that I was able to attend school. In my first year of high school, I was only 16. Jing, flushed with shame and anger, suddenly glared at me fiercely and roared. Stop talking, I sneered, completely unafraid, but my eyes grew redder as I spoke. Why didn't you say it? Didn't you say I was ungrateful? Didn't you say your grandmother was raising me when I was only 14? Your grandmother locked you in my room in the middle of the night. She wanted you to force yourself on me, take my body, so I couldn't run away and would have no choice but to marry you in the future. If I hadn't stabbed myself with a pair of scissors and scared you, I would have been ruined by you and your grandmother long ago. Aren't you just thinking that this kind of thing involves my reputation, that I'm a girl, I care about my dignity, and I'm too embarrassed to speak up? So you've been acting without any restraint, Jing. I don't care about face anymore. I just want to focus on getting into college and living a good life. You say your grandmother raised me, but have I ever used a single cent from your family all these years? My tuition and living expenses are all covered by scholarships, and I work part-time in my free time. When I come back to your house, I still have to do all the chores. And even your grandmother takes my money. What kindness and righteousness has your family ever shown me? I pressed forward step by step, my words resounding with conviction. The previously quiet classroom suddenly erupted with curses directed at Jing. Have you no shame, Jing? And you've been saying such things about her all along. Everyone thought you and the class president were a couple, but it turns out it was just your own wishful thinking. Isn't this just human trafficking? The class president has such good grades. And Jing should take a look at what kind of toad he is. The class president is worse off than a child laborer. One insult after another was hurled at Jing's face. After all, he was just a high school senior. It was the age when one cares deeply about face and self-esteem. He kicked over a nearby desk, let out a roar of frustration, and pushed through the crowd as he ran outside. The owner of the table is the sports committee member. The sports committee member grabbed Jing by the back of his collar. You're insane, Jing. Are you so ashamed and angry that you have to kick my table? Don't you have your own table? Jing punched the sports committee member in the face. Let go of me, you bastard. The two of them started fighting, inevitably affecting the nearby classmates. Male classmates who had always disliked Jing joined the fray one after another. It quickly escalated from a one-on-one fight into a group brawl. Jing's painful voice came through, but I acted as if I hadn't heard it, calmly packing my things. I slung my backpack over my shoulder and left through the back door, only to run into the homeroom teacher standing at the entrance. He looked at me with a complicated expression in his eyes. I wonder how long he had been listening. I opened my mouth, then lowered my gaze. In both lifetimes, I have felt ashamed before this mentor. He had high hopes for me and spared no effort in helping me over these 3 years. The 9 years of compulsory education only exempted me from tuition fees. There are also living expenses and book fees at school, especially the photocopying fees for printing test papers at our key high school, which were a huge expense for me. In my previous life, I thought it was the homeroom teacher who repeatedly approached the principal to have my living expenses, book fees, and photocopying fees waived. It wasn't until many years later when I returned home and met a retired teacher from the school that I found out. Back then, the principal had only agreed to waive my living expenses. The rest of the expenses were secretly covered by my homeroom teacher. Not only that, he noticed that every time I had a day off, I would go out to do odd jobs, all of which were physically demanding labor. After finding out, he invited me to his home to tutor his elementary school son for pay. I didn't understand this until I grew up. It's laughable to say, the homeroom teacher has been teaching for many years, surely he can teach an elementary school child. He was clearly sparing no effort to help me, yet he still cared for my fragile youthful pride. Now that I have lived 2 lives, meeting his gaze, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow. He reached out and patted my shoulder. Shannon, a golden phoenix can emerge from the mountains, and the phoenix tree grows in the valley. You will definitely live the life you desire. His eyes were a bit red, and my gaze swept over the classmates nearby. Their gazes were either filled with shame or guilt, but there was no mockery at all. That night, I was sleeping soundly in the dormitory. The dorm manager asked me to go downstairs to answer the phone. On the other end of the line was Jing's trembling, aggrieved voice. Nan, don't hang up. I have something to tell you. You already know, right? Suran drugged you. But this has nothing to do with me, Nan. You can't take it out on me. I held back my disgust. Aren't accomplices also guilty? His voice choked up. Nan, I was just afraid you wouldn't want me anymore. I was afraid that after you got into a good university and met new people, you would abandon me. I really can't live without you, Jing. I've never been with you. Could you please stop being so narcissistic? I let out a cold laugh. He gasped sharply. You're still angry with me, aren't you? And about the college entrance exam, Nan, if you rank in the top 10, there will still be someone to sponsor your tuition fees, even if no one else supports you. I will earn money to put you through school, Nan. I will show you my determination to make it up to you. Without waiting for him to speak, I hung up the phone. After Suran returned to school, she confronted Jing during the break. During these days I was in the hospital. Why didn't you come to see me? Jing glanced at me and said to her impatiently, as if trying to distance himself, Can you stay away from me? Suran's eyes instantly reddened. What do you mean? If I hadn't drunk the water you gave me, how could I have gotten sick? Jing pushed her away forcefully. Are you crazy? Who gave you any water? He looked at me pleadingly. Nan, I really didn't fetch water for her. I chuckled and ignored her. Suran snapped back to reality, quickly walked up to me, and grabbed my wrist tightly. It was you, wasn't it? I slapped her hand hard. I don't understand what you're saying, Su-ran said angrily. Are you getting back at me? Why would I want revenge on you? What have you done to deserve my revenge? It's so hard to guess. Su-ran raised an eyebrow. Glanced at He-jing, who turned his head away. Su-ran let out a cold laugh. Shannan, aren't you afraid I'll call the police? Your whole life would be ruined. I smiled. Then go check the surveillance footage. He-jing was so guilty that he didn't even dare to look at me and walked straight out the back door. In the classroom, only Su-ran and I remained. Su-ran stood with her arms crossed, looking down at me from above. I never would have guessed. Shin-nan. All these years you've been putting on such a good act. Who knew holding grudges was your true nature? But no matter how much you try to get back at me, what good does it do? You still missed the unified exam. The top spot is mine. The school's only recommendation quota is mine. And the 4-year full tuition waiver is also mine. I actually don't need the rewards from the entrance exam at all. But I know this is your lifeline. So I just don't want to give it to you. Just wait to rot in this small place for the rest of your life. I let out a careless laugh. Is that so? Just wait and see. Su-ran lifted her head and let out a contemptuous sneer. Just keep pretending to be strong. The results of the joint exam were announced during evening self-study. The homeroom teacher placed the printed score sheet on the podium. He held the insulated cup with a smile. Come up and take a look. Su-ran sat complacently in his seat, motionless. Looking at me with a challenging gaze, I took a sip of water and didn't move. I let the other students crowd around the podium to look at the score sheet. Su-ran waited for her classmates to exclaim her name in surprise, but what came instead was a sentence. The gap between first and second place is too big. The score difference is over 100 points. Oh my god, Su-ran couldn't suppress the smile at the corner of her mouth. But the next second, the class president is really amazing. The school bell isn't even close. Su-ran's face flushed red as she stood up. What are you talking about? This can't be. She frantically pushed her classmates aside, rushed to the podium, grabbed the score sheet, and stared at it over and over with wide eyes. No matter how hard she hit her head or closed and opened her eyes, what I saw were still the 2 words, Shannan. Her hands trembling, she looked at me with a broken expression. Her eyes bloodshot. She ran up to me and started hitting me. You lied to me, Shannan, you lied to me. I grabbed her hand and said expressionlessly into her ear, do you know why I didn't retaliate against you on the day of your entrance exam? Because I have more than enough strength to crush you, to make you understand the gap between you and me. Su-ran, if your skills are inferior to others, you have to admit it. I shook off her hand, and she fell to the ground, breaking down in tears. Just like me in my previous life. After waking up and missing the joint exam, my world collapsed, and I felt like everything was plunged into darkness. Fortunately, there was still the college entrance exam, but after missing the college entrance exam as well, I just wanted to die. Later, He-jing and I went south to work, and I kept earning money to take the self-study exams. The joint entrance exam questions and college entrance exam questions I missed that year. For many years after, I could recite it backwards and forwards. Because it was the life I had missed. When He-jing returned from sports practice and found out I had placed first in the entrance exam, he froze for a few seconds before falling silent. He didn't have an emotional breakdown like Su-ran, shouting and screaming, but I was greeted by an unexpected guest, Su-ran's father, in the principal's office. The man smiled at me. He runs a large supermarket in the city, and his hometown is just a few steps away from the He family's place. I called him Uncle Su for 18 years. He watched me being abused by the He family, even almost becoming an unregistered citizen, yet he never showed me a shred of pity. From the gossip of the villagers, I pieced together the story of Su Wenyuan's ex-wife, who was my mother. She died from massive bleeding during a difficult childbirth, one big, one small, both dead, less than half a month after her death. Su Wenyuan brought back a woman who was heavily pregnant and about to give birth. That woman was Su-ran's mother. After the principal left, only Su Wenyuan and I remained in the office. He looked at me and smiled, his face full of affection. You've grown up, truly accomplished. You're the first child from our village to get into a prestigious university, truly accomplished. The more he looked at me, the more pleased he became. It wasn't as if he was looking at his daughter, but rather at his pride. His mettle. I distanced myself. Uncle Su, is there something you need? He sighed. His eyes instantly reddening. Nan, actually, I am your father. I couldn't acknowledge you before because of your Aunt Jane. Now that you're older and about to go to college, even if she and your dad get divorced, your dad still wants to acknowledge you. I don't believe it. Having lived 2 lives, acting was no longer a challenge for me. Su Wenyuan took me to the hospital for a DNA test, and when the results came out, I threw myself into his arms and cried, Dad. You don't know how much I wished you were my father when I was a child and saw you doting on Ran. I never thought you really are my father. Su Wenyuan took me back to the small villa he had built in the countryside. When Su Ran saw me, she couldn't hold back her anger and rushed over to push me. I fell to the ground and silently shed tears. Su Wenyuan was so angry that he slapped Su Ran across the face. She's your sister. What are you doing? Get back to your room. Su Ran left in tears. While Aunt Zhang nearby was grinding her teeth in anger, with Su Wenyuan's help, I successfully transferred my household registration out of the He family. Grandma He was initially adamantly opposed to the idea. Su Wenyuan opened a supermarket and hired some local thugs to protect the store. He Jing was ambushed several times on his way home, beaten until his face was bruised and swollen, the most brutal time. They broke his leg. Grandma He cried and wailed. And only then did she bring out my household registration booklet. I successfully transferred my household registration out of the He family. What was originally as difficult as climbing to the sky for me was a piece of cake for Su Wenyuan, after being recommended for admission. I no longer needed to go to school. It takes a villain to outdo a villain. I stayed at home, cooking meals and preparing soups for Su Wenyuan every day, playing the part of a dutiful daughter to the fullest. These were all things Su Ran had never done on a regular basis. Su Ran was very spoiled. With her as a contrast, my slightest kindness would be magnified in Su Wenyuan's eyes. And as Su Ran listened to Su Wenyuan's praises of me day after day, her emotions grew increasingly worse and more. She couldn't stand seeing me show to Su Wenyuan, nor could she bear seeing Su Wenyuan treat me kindly. She couldn't stand the loving relationship between our father and daughter. She would throw tantrums and cry, she would smash plates and bowls, then she would be scolded by Su Wenyuan, and in severe cases, he would even resort to physical violence, and so, every day in the Su family almost fell into a vicious cycle. Under this kind of emotional pressure, Su Ran simply couldn't study at all. On the day of the college entrance exam, I showed up on time. She glared at me angrily. What are you doing here? I laughed. Take the exam again, and I'll show you that losing to me was no coincidence. I looked into her eyes. But reality, you are my defeated opponent. Every time, you will lose to me. This is your fate. Su Ran, you must accept your fate. Her eyes showed anger and hatred, but deep down there was fear and dread. I walked into the examination hall. While she remained standing in place, I had disrupted her state of mind. When the college entrance exam results came out, Su Ran scored over 200 points less than me, barely making it into a first-tier university. Su Wenyuan was somewhat disdainful. You didn't even get into a top-tier university. I've invested so much in you over the years. The money spent on tutoring alone could have bought an apartment in the city. Useless thing. Su Ran broke down and wailed uncontrollably. I brought out the soup I had prepared. Dad, don't be angry, have some soup first. You're not in good health, so you really need to take care of yourself. Aunt Zhang was so angry that she knocked over my soup and got into a physical altercation with me. Su Wenyuan slapped her back. The house was in complete chaos. I took advantage of the night to pack my luggage, deliberately making a lot of noise. Su Wenyuan indeed came out to see me and asked what I was doing. I cried softly and said, I've already lost my mom, and now you're all I have left, Dad. Although I really want to live with you, Dad, I don't want to disrupt your life. I found a part-time job at an educational institution in Beijing, and I'll call you often to check on you when I have time. Su Wenyuan wiped his tears with the back of his hand and handed me a bank card. This card has 150,000 in it. Use it for now. And if it's not enough, just let Dad know. I politely declined for a while, then eventually accepted it. During my years in university, I achieved excellent grades, which made Su Wenyuan look very good in front of his relatives back in the countryside. With me as a comparison, Su Ran became the unruly one. Su Wenyuan and Su Ran's mother frequently argued, what kind of feelings could a man who cheats on his wife, abandons his family, and deserts his daughter possibly have? No one knows how many women Su Wenyuan has on the side. I carried out the principle of speaking sweetly while being ruthless at heart, deceiving Su Wenyuan into supporting me through graduate school, doctoral studies, and ultimately studying abroad. For someone like Su Wenyuan, who is uneducated but obsessed with saving face, the halo effect of academic qualifications is unusually strong. After returning from studying abroad, I started working at Su Wenyuan's supermarket. Within 2 years, I successfully transferred all of Su Wenyuan's assets, turning the supermarket into an empty shell, and I left this place. My household registration was transferred along with my university back when I was in college. Su Ran's mother divorced Su Wenyuan, and Su Wenyuan almost went crazy. Years of excessive drinking and womanizing had depleted his health. He was diagnosed with a terminal illness and made countless phone calls to me. I reluctantly answered his call just before I was about to change my SIM card. He asked me for medical expenses. begging me to save him. I just smiled and said, "Uncle Sue, my mother has been dead for 18 years. You've lived 18 extra years. Hurry up and go keep her company. I don't have a single cent for you while you're alive, but after you die, I'll give you however much money you need for the funeral." Before he could curse at me, I hung up the phone. He didn't make it through the winter before he died. On the day he died, I set foot once again in the city I had once so deeply despised. At Sue Nguyen's funeral, I wrote my mother's name. The hired opera singers, drummers, and scripture chanters were also arranged for my mother. I also rebuilt my mother's grave. The guests were all stunned, but none of them dared to say anything. The performance on the stage was going wonderfully, and the guests at the dining table were also enjoying their meal. Suren suddenly rushed in front of me, picked up a knife, and started stabbing at me. It was Yijing who pushed me away. The two of them were fighting, and Suren cut off Yijing's hand with a single slash of his knife. As Suren was being taken away by the police, he kept cursing me non-stop. Before Yijing was taken away by the ambulance, he smiled at me. "Nan Nan, I'm glad you're okay." I smiled mockingly. "Another scheme planned by you and Suren, right? You're really willing to go all out." "Yijing, what if your hand can't be reattached?" His face instantly turned pale, and he opened his mouth painfully as if to say something, but in the end, he pursed his lips weakly. "Nan Nan, I'm sorry. No, I find it disgusting." After the funeral, I buried Su Wenyuan far away. Back when he buried my mother, there wasn't even a tombstone, just a small mound of earth. Now I treat him the same way. I lied to him, even after death. I couldn't bring myself to spend money on him, after all. I've been poor my whole life. I suppose Uncle Su should be able to understand me. That's all for today's story. If you've listened this far, please leave happy every day in the comments. A little light wishes everyone happiness every day.